Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to each of you for being with us today. It's clear to me that the United States economy has benefited tremendously from the fact that we have been more or less on the cutting edge of technology in this area. There's a big opportunity for us that awaits us with the possible rollout of 5G, but we've got to do it right. It's clear that the status quo in the United States with regard to 5G spectrum allocation is going to have to change if the United States is going to maintain its edge in this area, and if it's going to be in a good position for global leadership in wireless innovation. It's imperative that we free up more spectrum for licensed use and for unlicensed use, particularly in the 3 gigahertz to 6 gigahertz band. But when we're looking at available frequencies, it becomes increasingly clear that spectrum sharing agreements will need to function as a commonly used alternative to current methods, to the traditional exclusive use kinds of arrangements that have come to define our market in many instances. We're going to have to find more efficient ways to allow for the balance of market interests between incumbents, between federal users, and between non-federal, non-incumbent users. So, Mr. Brenner, we'll start with you. In light of the need for more spectrum sharing that we see coming in the very near future, if we're going to do this and do it right, do you agree that it'll be far easier for newer entrants into wireless, for new entrants to develop wireless systems that are built to minimize interference with incumbents than for incumbents to go back and retrofit their systems for sharing arrangements?
Absolutely, and that's why when we are designing 5G, Senator Lee, from the very beginning, we're designing versions of 5G that can operate in a shared spectrum mode.
Can you describe the current state of play with regard to advancements in interference mitigation technology?
Yes, so I think I explained this a little bit in a prior answer. The way spectrum sharing works today, if the four of us were sharing a band, and it almost doesn't matter what technology we were using, we would do it on time. We would each get the spectrum 1/4 of the time, but what that means is when Ms. Baker is transmitting, Mr. Stroop, Mr. Cowden, and I have to be silent. So the spectrum is used by one person 1/4 of the time, while seriatim. What we're designing, and we call that listen before talk. You have to be quiet until it's your turn. What we're designing, though, with 5G, we now have this fast new radio, and we have many, many antennas in the base station and in the devices that are transmitting in very thin beams, very highly directional. So if all four of us know in what direction we're each going to transmit, we can each use the spectrum. All four of us could use the spectrum simultaneously and thereby have much more capacity, have a much better user experience.
That's good to know, and it certainly gives a lot of us hope for the future and hope for how this is all going to work. With regard to the 6 gigahertz band, can you expound a little bit on what you see as some of the potential for device innovation, for Wi-Fi evolution, for the development of gigabit LTE with license-assisted access, if the FCC were to open up this band for unlicensed use?
Yes, Senator Lee, we're very excited about the potential of opening that band because there's 1,200 megahertz. So it's a very wide band. Now, there are incumbent systems all over the place in that spectrum, but what's good about it is they're all fixed. We know where they are. And so we can work around them because these incumbents are not moving around. So the technology that I just described, which uses what we call look before talk instead of listen before talk, this idea that that multiple transmitters can all use the spectrum at once, would be perfect for some part of the 6 gigahertz band because it's a brand new technology. Everyone who's using the spectrum needs to have that technology. So that's one reason we're excited about it. Another reason is Mr. Cowden's company he described in his testimony is just announced they're launching next generation Wi-Fi. We call it 802.11ax, and that's a whole...
A really catchy name.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Sounds kind of like a bill that I would name something.
Exactly.
You can call it AX if you want to sound cool.
Yeah, yeah. And
AX.
And AX would be perfect for the 6 gigahertz band. And then the third technology that you spoke about, called LAA, which is being rolled out all over the country now, and is why Minneapolis, that Senator Klobuchar said, is the #1 in the United States in wireless speeds, because they have LAA rolled out with small cells. That could also go in the 6 gigahertz band. So we have the technologies. There obviously is a lot of work that has to be done with the FCC technical team, but we're very optimistic that a large swath of unlicensed spectrum could become available and would be great for all these technologies.
So if they get this part right at the FCC,
Exactly.
it could make a big difference.
Exactly.
I see my time's expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.